to me, people really need to.
Here we go. I think I'm doing it.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's see.
I'm
Let's
gonna
see.
pull you up on YouTube here real quick so I can see the chat.
To me, people really need to. All right, we're up. We're live.
Okay, sounds good.
Guess we'll give everyone a second to come in.
See the chat. Yeah, and like I said, I think that one thing that would be really helpful for Pokemon in general and for people in Pokemon is to start distinguishing between like wave and reprint.
Yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be discussed. I mean, I don't even know if there's that much of a difference anymore. I mean, you see them releasing product from years ago and, they call it a reprint or whatever, but.
Well, see, the problem is that the wave system is relatively new. That actually really started on battle styles, because prior to that, they were always a big release of all the products. All the way back in Sun and Moon, when I was collecting, it was always, you had that massive release, you had that bunch of product dumped out, and then of course they would do reprints after that. So everything that came in after that initial release was considered a reprint. Well, since then, Pokemon has changed their system into this wave system where they now systematically release the first wave or first dumping product over multiple waves. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think that it just comes down to the confusion of the old way of doing things to the new way of Pokemon. And if the wave system is going to continue, it may go back as they start to get caught up on the printing scales and stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I guess one of the things we could start out by talking about is, how do you see, now that we're kind of getting into some more, I guess, a normalization period of Pokemon, how do you see most modern sealed product, mainstream product, I guess, like booster boxes, ETBs, things like that, kind of staying away from collection boxes? How do you see those, performing as like a average ROI year over year, you think, going forward?
I think it's going to go back to the way it was back in Sun and Moon, and even early Sword and Shield, when the first releases were back in January. We're going to go back to seeing, even on the releases, you're going to be able to see that certain sets will do extremely well. They'll really take off like Hidden Fates did and Cosmic Eclipse. Even Team Up was kind of hot at first and then it died, so they canceled the reprint. But I think we're going to start seeing that normalization where we're not going to be seeing these huge hikes unless the set has something really good to offer. So like Evolving Skies, we're seeing that spiking up and down because of the hot chase for the evolutions inside of there, especially that Umbreon inside that set right now and Rayquaza are all really hot chase cards. And then you sit there and look at Brilliant Stars. Of course, you got that beautiful trainer gallery. That's a lot of fun to try and get that in that reverse slot. And of course, all the Charizards and Arceuses inside of there really do bring a driving force to that set. So like I said, I think that there's you're going to see some good sets and you're going to see some slow sets, but I don't think we're going to see this continuing up and up that we've been seeing on every set on a release.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I had someone in my chat or in my comment section asked the other day, what I thought. And I just gave a roundabout, 15 to 30% a year. And it sounds crazy to some people to say that, but to kind of put it in perspective, if you do put a dollar amount on it, let's say 5 years down the road, can you see a set like, Fusion Strike or Chilling Reign being worth $170, $180? If you can, that's about 20% a year over 5 years. So it doesn't seem so crazy when you put it in those long-term perspectives. So when people hear those high percentage amounts, they get a little scared. They think it's unrealistic and things like that. But it's all just kind of year over year. So yeah, sets might not move for the first year, 2 years, 3 years, but they might see a big uptick when years 4 and 5 come, when the supply dries up, when, collectors put a lot of that product in their permanent collection, when a lot of the products being opened up and the supply is getting lower. So yeah, I mean, I just see, more normalized returns, but I still do see returns because I don't know about you, but when I got back in during XY, even when I got back in, before the Roaring Skies and Primal Clash reprints, I remember XY base and Flash Fire and Primal or Phantom Forces already being in the mid to high hundreds. And so product has always moved even before the boom. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that, right?
I mean, all product does move, especially on the sealed side. Primarily just it's a supply and demand. As the set gets out of rotation and they stop printing, of course, you start to see that upward movement on it. The question is, of course, how strong that set is. And that's where a lot of times our basics kind of went out the window in the last year and a half, that you always used to look for anchors in the set. What are the driving forces of a set? What are the things that are going to be the reasons that people want to purchase a set in the future? And we're going to have to go back to those bases again on these sets. Even what I've been seeing so far, hearing so far out of this next set with Astral Radiant sounds like it may be a little bit of a weaker set. So far, like I said, I haven't been doing the research on the sets any longer. I stopped on Brilliant Stars and decided that I was going to enjoy the set when it gets released and then do my homework afterwards. But it sounds like there's not the incentives like there was in Brilliant Stars. Sounds like there's still out the more of the trainer gallery in this set, which is going to be a driving factor for some people, of course, but we don't know how much that's going to continue with these new sets. But you can even go back in history, black and white sets. Honestly, we weren't seeing 20% year over year. That was pretty high on a lot of them sets up until the boom. Black and white, when they were about 8 years old back in 2019, when I got back into it, were between $200 and $325 a booster box. Even black white base set was like $270 or $240 roughly. So yes, with the current market, with the current number of people in it, could I see 15 to 20% in 5 years? Yes, potentially. But I could also look at it from the other side, which is going back to black and white and some of the things prior to the 2016 boom. You look back factually on that, it wasn't that. You were getting about 7 to 8 unless you were actively in the markets moving, changing, and trying to do stuff.
Yeah. And so when I look at that, I like to look at kind of Pokemon into two different eras, into kind of the 1999 to 2014, 2015, and then 2015 and after. Because, people can look at data like that and say, well, base set took 17-ish years to get to $1,000 a box, so all these modern sets are overvalued because it took that long. And the main thing is it was just a different world back then, right? We grew up when we were kids, internet was there, but you really didn't use internet much. You didn't have social media. You basically had your friend group in your neighborhood, you had your friend group at school, you had your local card shop, and then maybe if you went to Toys R Us for a tournament or went to a out-of-town tournament if you were really into Pokemon back then. But there wasn't this constant immersion in the hobby like we see now. So you had that big fad phase for those 3-4 years when Pokemon came out, and then it became a very I don't want to say dead hobby, but it was a very low performing hobby for the next decade or so. And so it's really hard to compare the kind of the market activity within all those sets compared to kind of 2015 and so on. So yeah, I know what you're saying, where the returns back then weren't as great, but it's hard to say with 2 full generations in Pokemon, so much more active investing and collecting in the hobby. Sealed products become its own collectible class in Pokemon, and then on top of all those things, I just think we've upped the amount of product that we open and we use nowadays. So back then, I don't know how you were, but most people, their parents would get them 2 or 3 packs at a time, and that was your opening for that time. And now we've reached this point where it's normal to open a whole booster box at a time. That's like a 13 times what you used to open at a sitting. So it's just there's a lot more product now, but so much more product gets opened now than ever. And I just think it's because of the popularity, because multiple generations are involved. I just see a lot different movement in the future, just my opinion.
And we could. When I started into Pokemon, I was a little bit different because I was older. When Pokemon was released, I was already 12 years old. So I started doing it for the TCG part of it. I wasn't doing it as much for the collecting or just opening one pack just because I wanted some of it. I was opening it because I was actually playing. I was going to tournaments. I had friends and we were doing tournaments. So I was opening, 2 or 3 of us would go together. And back then, actually, booster boxes were $80. And if that, honestly, I've got newspaper clippings. My brother just found them when he was cleaning out the attic, where they were selling jungle and fossil booster boxes for $49.99 at our local at Sam Goody over here. And it's like you didn't even think anything of it back then, because you could get 3-4 guys, put 20 bucks in, and we could go trying to build our battle decks. What we were using, I mean, it was we were using it as a TCG. We had gone from Magic and moved into Pokemon, and because we were trying a new thing in our local card shop, actually we were lucky because I had first edition cards in my binder. I didn't even realize it until I came back into it and started looking through my binder, but I actually had first edition cards. And the more I think about it, the card shop in our local town, even though it was small, was always the type of guy, he was on the cutting edge. He wanted the latest and greatest thing. So he must have ordered Pokemon right off the bat, like first wave when it came out, taking the gamble on it. And it did extremely well. So we ended up with these cards. But you're right. Nowadays, it's not uncommon, even myself, to just go buy a booster box and rip through it. My son's probably ripped through more booster boxes since we've been back in it than I ever have, even playing Pokemon. Because you'd open, maybe 4 or 5 of each one of the sets, looking for your battle deck, and then you would trade, because it was a trading card game. So you would go to your local card shop before a tournament. I remember Sam Goody over here in Rice Lake. We'd go over there and they'd pull all the tables out to the main hallway of the mall, and you'd get gym badges. And they used to have the stamps, for the tournament and things like that. And we'd actually do trading beforehand and after the tournament. So if we wanted a card or we're looking for it, you talk to people and you'd get these things. And, that's one thing that I am happy to start seeing more and more of locally, even, are more people like my son's age and a little bit older getting into these tournaments. And like you said, the more people that are into the tournament play, that's the one thing that people have to realize now that we've got Worlds back. That's going to drive this market even a little bit better. If people get into the tournaments and the cards perform well, if the cards are strong, good performing cards, and people are interested in playing that TCG, it will continue to perform rather well into the future, just because you keep that interest, you keep that gameplay, and you've got the new anime, of course, that's coming out all the time for Pokemon. My son's watching the Sword and Shield versions of it right now and getting caught up. We just made it through Sun and Moon. Now we're in the Sword and Shield. And, it's just that constant growing factor. There's multiple things in Pokemon. And like I've said several times in other lives, it's kind of up to them now if they can keep this ball rolling by getting good abilities or getting good cards or playability on these cards, and really continuing to move forward on keeping us, growing and becoming stronger as a community.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think it's all good stuff for the hobby. That's some awesome stories about back in the day. It's always fun to, go back and relive that and just kind of think how stupid you were not to open more when you had the chance, right?
I know.
Well, hey, let's take this talk about this for a second. So Ray and Tube said seal will go up in value, but do you think it'll be hard to sell them once they get up to that high value? I've never had that problem yet. Going into the future, it's a very real concern. How do you start to sell a lot of these modern boxes when they do get in those upper hundreds or possibly in the low thousands and things like that? I know that, those later XY sets, those early XY sets like Flash Fire, Phantom Forces, things like that, they are slower moving. I know when they go at auction, they usually do go a good amount lower than the buy it nows are at. So that's definitely a real concern when they get into those areas. It really depends on, in my opinion, what you're doing. Are you just collecting like one of each box and, just worried about getting out of one? I think if you're doing that, maybe just be patient, list it at the buy it now what the market's at and wait to get your price. If you're doing like sort of investing or almost like a long-term flipping type thing where you're getting into cases of ETBs or cases of booster boxes and you're wanting to, make money off them. My biggest advice is don't get too greedy. Don't get too greedy. Have price points in mind that you're wanting to hit before the prices actually get there. And so, I did a video a while ago. It was kind of funny. It's crazy to think about, but about 85% of all the sets in Sun and Moon and XY, they have all been settling around the 300 to 500 a box range. And I don't know why that is. It's just kind of this plateau that's been hitting, with most of the sets. Anything other than the early XY, basically like evolutions, and I think ancient origins, and then there's like team up. And other than those, almost all those sets are either a little under or right in that 300 to 500 range. So if you're looking to hold long term, the sets reach that 300 to 500 benchmark for you eventually. Hey, maybe time to not be too greedy, unload some of your inventory, maybe keep some long term, and then rinse and repeat with new sets. So that's what I would try to do. Get out while there's still enough buyers and enough sales being had to where it's not a really illiquid investment. I don't know. Northwoods, what do you think?
I think you're pretty much right on it. It's just like any kind of product. You even look back to, any of the base set booster boxes, Fossil Jungle and all that. Eventually, all of them start to become more and more of a luxury good as they become, older and as time goes on with them. Every product, as you get going, has a value to it. And, we even talk about, I see the one comment in here about the UPC, for instance. At some point, it'll hit a plateau. All products do, and where someone is willing to pay for it. And then you'll see it kind of bounce on that plateau where someone will buy a little high, someone will buy a little low, someone will buy a little high, and it'll kind of keep flipping back and forth. And the thing is, like you said, sometimes it's just a wait and see game. If you really want to sell a product at a certain price, you're trying to sell it, if it comes down to how quick you want to sell it to. If you want to take the time and you have months to sell a product, that's where, the biggest thing is, like I've preached on my channel since I've started it. Expendable money. Don't put yourself in a position where you need to sell something immediately, because the second you have to sell something quickly, it leads to a good chance that you're going to go backwards on that item. But if you give yourself time and you have the money just allocated to it and you're not worried about getting it back quick, yes, items become harder. The more expensive an item becomes, the more solid it comes. It becomes more of a rock versus a liquid. And when that starts to happen, it becomes longer term selling points. And that's something that people need to realize, that yes, this booster box or UPC may go to $1,000. It may go to $2,000. People might start listing at $2,000. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to sell at $2,000, but you might be seeing people put it up for that price here in 4 to 5 years. People I keep watching that box just because it's a good case study with Pokemon, in my opinion, on what happens when you have a big hype product and you don't produce nearly enough for the demand. How far is this thing going to go before it finally does find that settling point and where people are going to go, we've had 6 more sets since then. Is it going to be 6 more sets since that was released? Is it going to be 3? Is there going to have to be another big product like that that's going to get people off of it? But at some point, when a company is continually making new products all the time, eventually something's going to perk someone else's interest and attention is going to be drawn off of that product. That's when you'll see that plateau. That's when you'll see that cool down or slow down on an item. And once again, that's when it becomes sometimes more difficult to sell it for that value mark. Like you said, I've said it several times, even with Evolving Skies. I could have waited for that box to go to $200. It looks like it might make it if they don't call a reprint here in the next couple weeks. We might be hitting $200 on Evolving Skies. I just saw a sale for $191. So that box is just going up like crazy in the middle of its life. I mean, it's not even a year old yet, guys. So this box going up to 191 is just kind of crazy. But the second they say reprint, you hear a confirmed source say reprint, this thing's going to fall like a bunch of dominoes. It just won't stay. The second people know there's more coming, that's the second everybody's going to stop buying. And then it becomes solid if you're trying to get $200 for it. Versus like when we were selling at 175, 178. To me, that's where I wanted to be. That gave me the profit margin that we wanted. Sell it, be happy, don't be greedy, and just move on with the next thing. Or after the reprint, buy it again. That's probably what we're going to end up doing. Is probably buying some more of it again after this next reprint.
Yeah, I'd love to get in some Evolving Skies. That'd be nice without paying $200 a box.
Yeah, no. I paid $100, $104 with it to the house when it was on the last reprint. So that's why I said I had my price margin when it hit that one. I said when it hit 170, I was selling it. It didn't make a difference if it was now or 3-4 years down the road. That's when I would list it, and it just hit it now. So it went up for sale, and I sold out of it extremely quick. It actually took me about a week, and it was all gone. I had 6 cases of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great lesson too. Just this is supply and demand, people. Like this is literally UPCs, evolving skies. You're watching supply and demand at work. There's not enough product to go around for the amount of buyers that are out there. And if stores can keep raising their prices higher and higher, and they keep selling, what's going to stop them from raising them higher? They're gonna raise them as high as possible till it reaches that price point where people say, you know what? It's too much now. There's too many other things I can buy out there for this price. It's not really worth what I can get for that. And then, that's where the inflection point will happen, and they'll have to, maybe drop their prices a little until they start getting sales again. But when it's in these mania phases, there's nothing stopping it, right? So
Brilliant Stars was an interesting one, actually, on the release for the LGSs around here, because one LGS always has them for sale for like $110 a booster box on any release. Doesn't matter what the set is. They just do their first wave. They always sell them for 110, and that's usually their booster box price, unless they have to start doing like they were selling some. They try and get in like Sun and Moon and those kind of boxes too, and then they'll sell them at whatever the market value is of those. But as long as they're in rotation and they're able to get stock from their distributors, typically a booster box is 110 no matter what the market price is. So but we had the other one, the LGS, just 3 blocks down the road, always sells booster boxes at market price.
yeah.
So it's just funny how two different businesses right next to each other have that different mantra that, okay, I can sell a ton of them at 110 and still make the same markup as this one that sells a third less or a third of what I do. But because they're running markup, I run out of them, and everybody goes here and buys them from me because they're the only ones left if you want them, unless you want to pay shipping and wait in town for it or wait for it.
I mean, I'm sure you saw that Danny Phantom video about the, raising prices. Have you heard anything from any of the connections you have with any of the distributor or friends that have distribution? I mean, is distribution pricing going up? I mean, is retail prices going to rise? I mean, I myself was at Target with my wife, and I don't know if it was mismarked or not, but they had Fusion Strike and they had Darkness Blaze ETBs for $49.99. They were always $39.99. So I don't know. I mean, I know some people have been showing $44.99 at Walmart. Yeah. I mean, what do you think is going on? Are they raising prices or?
Yeah, I think they are. And I think part of it's inflation. Just in general, with the cost of supplies, you got fuel, you've got everything else going up. It's only a matter of time before, even the distributors have to start raising the prices on the product. Of course, printing gets more expensive, labor's going up. All the things that are happening in the economy are going to affect that store price anyways. But yes, I have seen at our local Walmarts and Targets right now, ETBs are about $44.99 now instead of the $39.99. And also the individual, like the cardboard, I always call them the cardboard blisters or cardboard sleeves. Those ones went from, so when this started in 2020, they were $398. About I want to say June, July last year, they went up to $418. And now them same blister packs are selling for $448 now. So they are up about 50 cents in the last year just on those spots. But you think about it, if you continually purchase these, that gets to be a pretty heavy increase on your costs. But it's to be expected. I mean, everything's going up. My business is being an HVAC tech. I get a 4 to 7% increase every single quarter. I mean, you just think about that in the last 2 years, every quarter we're going up 7, sometimes 10% on pricing. We went from installing equipment for around $2,000 to $2,500 all the way up to about $4,500 now, just on the overall cost increases of everything between fuel, insurance, because the vehicles got more expensive. So now insurance goes up because vehicles cost more. It's just a whole trickle down effect right now in this economy. And I think that that's mainly the driving force on it. I don't think it's a supply issue so much driving that price up as much as it's just the production costs and the transportation costs of moving this stuff. And yes, distributors, from what I've heard from quite a few people, and I haven't asked him yet what we're doing or what they're doing, but my assumption is he's going to tell me, yeah, they've probably had a price increase.
Gotcha. Well, I guess we could cover some more controversial subjects. So one of the things I get attacked for, I guess most, is my view on vintage set cards. So what's your view on kind of the future What kind of future do you see for these? I guess not low grades, but middle grade, PSA 7, PSA 8s of these vintage set cards, base set, Jungle Fossil, maybe the Gems, all the way up into the later WotC. Not like the really rare, not talking about the going to the Nintendo era like Gold Stars, maybe not the Shinings, things like that. But I just feel like a lot of the set cards in WotC they're not rare cards, right? They're all printed down the same sheet. There's the same 16 hollows cut one after another. And so, I think we kind of went through that boom where every single person that had those graded them. Most of them did not come back 9s and 10s. They came back as 6, 7s, and 8s. And I just think there's a huge supply on the market. And I don't think there's enough demand left that want those lower grades. And not only that, my other opinion was that, let's say 100 new people come in the hobby every month or every year, whatever it may be. I feel like less and less of those people coming into the hobby now have a care about vintage. A lot of them are coming in for modern. And so I feel like as time goes on, the bigger the market gets, the more new people that come in, the less and less demand there's going to be for WotC, but the higher and higher supply, it seems to come every day. You see like Z&G Emporium, he shows all the time. He gets all these PSA 6, 7s, and 8s back from, base set, Jumbo Fossil, and so on. And so I'm just really worried for people who are, they're sidestepping getting the 9s and 10s because they're expensive. So they're kind of getting the cheaper ones, the 6, 7s, and 8s, because they think they're still good plays because they're so old and they're the first, whatever it may be. And I just think it's a very scary path to take. What do you think about that?
Right now, to be honest with you, I am just staying completely out of the graded market. There's several reasons why I stay out of that. Number one reason is that we still have so much backlog. There's so much backlog still sitting there. They're digging through, and we don't know what the numbers are going to fall out for populations on any of these things. Like you said, a lot of the WotC era stuff were cards like myself that they were played, they were used, and nobody put card savers or anything on these products back then. They were all used. So the chances of 10s coming in are pretty slim to none. And actually, Professor Oak does a fantastic job of really giving a breakdown of what's coming back. And it's actually, I was always predicting, just in my head, I was thinking maybe 1% to 2% of all the cards going in for WotCs that were hollows would come back as a 10. And actually, it's coming in a lot lower than that. It's about 1% to 0.8% of the cards coming back from WotC era hollows are coming back as a 10. So one thing that, if you have 10s and if you've already made your bets with 10s, back in 2016, that's great for you. That's good news that these are coming back a little bit lower. But when I look at it, you sit there and look at, like you said, 7, 6, 7, 8s, and 9s. That could be disasters for those accounts. Them cards may really continue to take a tumble. But on the flip side, it depends on how many people remain in a hobby and start to work back towards that too. So it could counteract itself and start to chew itself through also and get absorbed, because people are more willing to pay the money for a 6, 7, 8, or 9 than they are for a 10, because they just want it for the nostalgia reasons and not so much for the investment or the, long-term hold on them. If you're going for a collection, honestly, even myself, the number on the slab really doesn't make any difference. To me, I want it because I want it for my collection. I want it for my personal. I'm not looking at the long-term investment. Maybe Jacob in 40 years, when I'm dead and gone, he might be putting it up for sale because he has no interest in it. But I just don't really, I don't care about the number. And that's kind of why I've been staying out of the grading market. It's just between consistency issues, between all the grading companies, they're constantly changing like their curriculum for the grading side of things on how hard they grade centering or how hard they grade scratches or whitening. And it's always changing it seems like from every 6 months. PSA has gotten harder. CGC now is reportedly back down. And it's just, to me, grading is something's going to happen in grading, in my opinion, that's going to cause a major shift. Either they're going to find a new grading company that stays consistent for many years and takes over the title of everything, or people are just going to have less value in grading cards eventually, except for 10s. And it's just going to kind of slowly just kind of fizzle out, because, grading actually is a fairly new thing. Not too many people graded cards 10 years ago. Even when I was up until 2006, we never graded cards. It was never a thing that we even considered. I mean, some people had them, you'd always go to the sports card or the sports LGS or the sports card places, and they'd always have graded Michael Jordan rookie cards, or, they'd have Kobe Bryant cards that were graded, his rookie card at the time. And I know now they're worth a ton of money, but
Right.
they were still active players in the NBA, and they weren't really that, they were sought after, but not huge. So there's a lot of things. And I'm with Felipe here. Robo grading, I'm going to be trying that. That's probably the first grading submission I'm going to do in the last 2 years, is I'm going to send some stuff out to robo grading, because I am really curious, because I've got some of those Charizard from Champions Paths.
Oh, nice.
So I've got a 10 in CGC, I got a 10 in PSA, and I got a 10 in Beckett, a gold 10, not a black 10. I couldn't afford the black 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it out to robo grading one of those cards, just to see consistency wise, how does that look compared to the other, 10s of this Champions Path card.
Wait, so what exactly is robo grading? You're not going to crack one of those, right?
No. I've got some, I've got a pile of them, Charizards from the Champions Path, the full art promo card inside of it.
Promo. Okay. I thought you meant
No. Sorry, the promo, the actual full art promo inside the ETB. So I figured it'd be a good reference that if I sent maybe 2 or 3 of those into robo grading and just do a comparison. I've got a version of 9 and I got a version of 10 from all 3 of those grading companies, and just see how do they go comparatively. If I put these under look at them, because I got a GMA version, and let me tell you, GMA is, I got that one for free, thank goodness, because I'm glad I didn't pay for that thing. Their 10 is like the equivalent of like an 8 or 7 for most companies. So centering is like way off. How most of the promos, the centering was way off on all of them. And this one's way off. And it's like there's whitening on a corner, and it's getting a 10. So like I said, I want to just take 3 of those cards out of my out of my box, and I'm going to send them over to robo grading just to do a good comparison. I think it'd be a good video to just show, here's the 3 cards. This is what I see. This is the comparison between them. Because honestly, I think it'd be fun. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen.
How often you reprint build and battle boxes on second and third wave product releases? As far as I know, they don't reprint pre-releases and build and battle boxes. Am I correct there?
No, they don't. Built and battle boxes are pre-release kits only. So once they run out, they run out. But they do seem to be printing a ton of them, even comparatively to older sets.
Yeah, as something it's really strange. It's like some of them, going all the way back to Fates Clyde, I know it had that restock, but going back, it's like some of the really older pre-release kits are still near the pre-release prices, and then you have some kits that just skyrocket. They're in the almost $100 box range. So it's, other than Evolutions, I get that's a little different because of the Charizard, but some of those pre-release boxes are rising, and I look at the pre-release cards inside. There's nothing special really. The set, packs aren't that expensive. Some of them don't make sense. So I don't have an answer for anyone investing in the pre-release kits. I'm in some of them, in some sets, but I don't understand why they move the way they do. I can't figure it out. I really can't.
It comes down to the Pokemon inside. Actually, the biggest movers usually have a Charizard inside of them, because Vivid Voltage is one of the big movers. Team Up's a big mover. And then, of course, you can go all the way down to XY Evolutions. And, of course, that pre-release is doing extremely well. Currently, none of the ones that are out right now are doing very well. But if you look at the ones that are in the actual promo cards inside of them, they're not desirable Pokemon at all, like Persimmon. Why is Persimmon? Now I got what I think in Astral Radiance, it's like Kling or Clank is inside of there as one of the pre-release promos. It's like, it really does depend on the Pokemon inside of there. It's really seemed to drive that. Because some people like myself, I do like stamp promo cards, but I really don't care of a stamp promo card of Bidoof. It's just not something that I'm going to be chasing after versus a stamp promo of Charizard or even the Moltres one. I'm actually surprised that the Moltres one hasn't been moving up, but it might just be a delay because, Brilliant Stars was just released. So, I figured that exactly. Follow the Charizard. If you want to know where the money's at, keep following Charizard around because he's the one that'll do it.
Someone just said Hidden Fates, ETB, restocks possible. I think you might have missed the boat on that last one. I think that I mean, obviously anything can happen these days, but yeah, that last reprint, restock with Hidden Fates that they did, I'm pretty sure that was probably the last one. There's so many sets since then. I mean, we got 10 sets or 10 plus sets since then that they could put reprints out on. I really doubt they're going to go all the way back to Hidden Fates again. I think is a pretty good price at this point if you're wanting to be in one of those.
And that's what I said, in my last video. If they drop under $150, I've been actually picking up a couple of them at around 148, 149 now. So there's some good opportunities to snipe some hidden fate ETBs pretty regularly right now. But we're not gonna see any restock of Hidden Fates. It's done. If we would have seen it, it would have happened. I mean, the last reprint we had was last June. So we're almost a year already with no reprint on that set. And that was actually just a finish up set for the last reprint for that set typically. And then they skipped Cosmic Eclipse. So we're not going to see Cosmic Eclipse either. And I think this year, if I remember right, I think Sword and Shield, I know it's Rebels Clash. I think Darkness Ablaze, Rebels Clash, and Sword and Shield all go out of rotation this year.
Wow.
So those ones, I know it's hard to believe. We're already over a year, 2 years of Sword and Shield. That was back in January 2020. Rebels Clash came out in April of 2020. So let me get your thoughts on this. So I included this in kind of part of my videos because I thought it's really interesting.
Have you noticed how Darkness Ablaze and what is the other set?
Vivid Voltage.
I want to say Vivid Voltage, but the reprints weren't out yet. They were just released. They're out now. But have you noticed, like, both of those sets, the booster box prices and the singles prices were not affected by the ETB reprints? Does that sound odd to you? I mean, the booster box prices are continuing to, they either stayed the same or they went up a little bit. I looked at a lot of all the mint single prices on TCG Player. They haven't been affected really that much at all. They've been pretty much the same. So it's really strange putting that much more product on the market. ETBs are a lot more likely to be opened than booster boxes because of the price point, because of where they're sold at. They're sold in retail. And it hasn't affected the market, like I thought it would. So I don't know what to think about that. I don't know if, the market just kind of had it already priced in, if it's just kind of the singles have reached just the bare bottom that they're going to get to. What do you think about that for future reprints on how they're going to affect sets?
The thing is with the Darkness Ablaze and Vivid Voltage, I don't think that that's going to affect the booster boxes too much. I did notice that they did stall on their upward movement. Both of them did, but they didn't go down. Right. The reason they stalled is that I think a lot of us were expecting them to be doing a booster boxes potentially with this reprint. So they'd fill in all the ETBs they wanted, printed extra packs, and they'd start filling booster boxes, and we'd see a booster box, and we didn't. According to distributors, they didn't get any booster boxes on their shipments for these. So that is a good thing, when it comes down to these things.
B Purple Poker says, wrong. There was a big dip on DA booster boxes during the first quarter.
During the first quarter, yeah, because people were worried about that.
That was before the actual reprint.
Correct. That was before the reprint when we came into the beginning of the year. But then once the reprint happened, they started to go back up, and then they flatlined until the reprint went through. Once the reprint was through, actually they've just kind of stayed stable, and they some of them, like you said, I think Vivid Voltage has actually gone up a little bit. Darkness Ablaze kind of just moved up a tiny bit also. And once again, I think it comes down to supply and demand. The booster box demand or supply didn't go up. So what would cause that to force it down? The singles, I think they're just at rock bottom. Honestly, that Charizard and stuff is just so low that people are still looking for Charizards. And if they're trying to look at Charizards or interested in Charizards, they can actually be, you can get a Darkness Ablaze Charizard right now for $43 to $48. So they're going to sell. Nobody's going to, I don't see any perceivable future where someone's going to list that Charizard under $43. It's just not real likely.
Yeah. This is just like a new precedent for Pokemon. I mean, like I said, I've been in for a while now, at least 7 years. And they've completely done a 180. It was always booster boxes were the ones reprinted. And now they're just doing a 180. And now it's Elite Trainer boxes, no booster boxes. I mean, really strange, you know, phenomenon we're experiencing. So is that going to make the booster boxes continue to be more valuable? Or are they going to move quicker than we used to see? I mean, I know a lot of people right now that are kind of down on Modern, that think Modern isn't going to keep performing because the boom's over. I think that's a wrong way to look at it. I mean, I know we have some down sets. I get Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike are still a thing, but if you look at Sword and Shield as a whole, I think the sets are performing better than, you know, X, Y, or Sun and Moon were before the boom. You know, we have what is the base set at? Isn't it over $200 now? Rebel Clash is in the high hundreds. You got Evolving Skies high hundreds. You have, you know, Brilliant Stars the mid hundreds. Celebrations is moving very well. I mean, so it's a good mix, and I don't think, you know, for an overall, you know, popularity or overall growth, that the era as an all is doing very bad at all compared to what you might hear out there. What are you thinking?
I honestly don't know what's going on, but I think it comes down to the reason that these sets are holding so well currently. It's basically just because of the fact that we have so many new people in the market in Modern that understand Modern, that are working with Modern, that they are going to continue to keep this market from really driving down. It's going to be interesting to see over the next year or two how many people remain. Once again, you know, there's always that statistic that sits in my head that, you know, a normal person lasts on average 2 years in the TCG. Now, is that going to hold for people in the collecting and in the, you know, investing side of things, or is that just actual people playing? But that was a number that was put out by Wizards of the Coast, I think 2 or 3 years ago. They actually did a study that shows that on an average TCG of, you know, Wizards of the Coast brand. So that's, I think there's like 3 or 4 different TCGs they do. On average, it's a 2-year lifespan of someone actually involved in the TCG. They said involved, so I don't know if that means playing, collecting, or, you know, where that breakdown is, because they just said involved. But, you know, it's an interesting statistic that, you know, and you kind of look at what's happened in the hobby in the last 2 years. People came in 2019 and in 2021, a lot of people exited out of here. And now we're seeing a new bunch of people coming in. I'm seeing a lot of new creators, a lot of new people showing up in the markets that I've never seen before. So once again, these are just kind of interesting little statistics, and wondering if it's going to hold up that way.
Yes, you're right, though. There are a lot of new people coming in the hobby. I mean, I don't know just how many people I've had on my channel tell me that, you know, they just got in the past few months. I mean, this is way after the Logan Paul boom. So people are consistently still finding the hobby. They're still getting back in. You know, a lot of them have kids. So, you know, it's kind of like by default, they get back in with their parents. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't see the, you know, when you look at why markets change, it's going to be for only 2 reasons. One is going to be there's a drastic change in the amount of supply. So I know Pokemon with the whole print factory, you know, the printer's going to go to the moon and all that. You know, that could be a reason. Okay, if they start reprinting everything and they put tons of product out and it just overwhelms the market, that's one thing. And then the other thing would be demand. If demand just falls off, you know, people stop getting back into Pokemon, they start leaving the hobby after 2 years, like you said. But other than those 2 things, if we continuously get new growth in the hobby and the printing stays relatively similar to what we've seen, maybe a little more, you know, what else is going to really change the overall, you know, movement of the market, you know, other than, you know, catastrophic things or another boom? We should see normalized movement from here on out until the next event.
Yeah, I mean, we can go through a whole normal period here, but, you know, the other thing is too, is there's still a lot of publicity on Pokemon right now. And as Pokemon will continue to kind of move up in an upward trajectory. We've seen it since 2016. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down until some kind of boom happens. And whether that happens in 2026 when we hit the 30th anniversary, or whether it happens something sooner, you know, some other celebrity jumps in that's got enough followers to drive this market up. But I think that there's enough people that have come into this market and have stayed that are actually enjoying this market talks. They enjoy collecting and they enjoy what they're getting. And as long as that continues, we could continue to see this upward moving market, and sometimes sporadically. I mean, sometimes even like myself, I'm watching certain areas that are slowly moving down, and I'm sure I'm not, if I'm doing it, I know that there's probably about 1,000 to 2,000 other people watching the exact same thing that I am, where we are seeing things come down and then, purchasing them when we think they hit the low, which I'm sure, like Chilling Rain stuff. I saw DigiSmithy TCG put in there, all of a sudden Chilling Rain, and I've noticed that too. Chilling Rain has been moving up on the upper side too on the singles. I've seen a lot of them alternate arts starting to do some upward movements where they've been kind of sitting for a little bit and now they're starting to move. So once again, is it because it's finally dropped far enough to where more people are now focusing on that? And then of course, once people start focusing on it, other people see that movement and everybody starts to jump on it. And it almost causes like these little false booms in the market right now, just because people are speculating, people are thinking that this is a good time to buy. You see an upward trend on some of these things, and all of a sudden you're purchasing them because, oh, maybe they're finally going up. Maybe there's an opportunity here to finally purchase these a little low and sell them a little high.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said about collectors coming back in during this time because of the lulls. I mean, I find myself just going back and looking at vintage cards and just seeing at the prices they're at, and it does get you to that point where it's like, man, is this a buy? I mean, these are so low at this point from where they were at. I mean, is it time to buy these things? I mean, it would be so nice to, kind of build a collection now, but can they go lower? But I think the price points are reaching that level to where people feel comfortable moving in. Now, is it a good move? Is there still downside risk? Yes. Is there upside potential? Yes. It's just, it's speculation, right? Everything's speculation. I get hated on for talking about modern steel product because it's, Jake from Pokenomics, he always tells me that, there were so much better investments you could have made back during the boom. And I get it. There definitely is. It's just, you always have to weigh that risk to reward, right? I mean, when you're buying modern steel product down at these, $80, $90 a booster box, and you're buying the ETBs down at 35, 40 an ETB, you have very little to no downside risk. Your risk is basically, it's going to stay at that price for an extended period of time. You don't have a risk of losing 50% of your money or, 40% of your money. And so when you buy single cards, no matter how much they drop, you still have that risk of losing money. Now, you also have a lot higher upside potential. It was brought to my attention. I talked about a Gold Star Rayquaza in one of my videos. It was down in like the $6,000 range. And someone corrected me and said, yeah, it's a $9,000 card. And sure enough, I went and looked at eBay, and the latest sold listing at auction is now $9,000 in a PSA 9. And so it's, people are starting to get to that point where they're like, okay, these prices have gotten low enough. I think it is time to move in. And it's happening with everything, even modern cards. I mean, you're seeing PSA 10 modern cards get down to in the 30s. I mean, they're selling for $30 in PSA 10s. And so it's to that point where collectors are finally saying, you know what? Screw it. I'm not worried about any more price drops. How much lower can it go? It's still a PSA 10 card. It's still a PSA 9 vintage card. I'm just going to jump in. And so, I think collectors are going to start running this market a little more.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I think that we are going to continue with everybody that's came in, with people with little understanding of the market, and with all the things happening right now, you're going to continue to see what I almost want to call little micro booms all over the place, where people think that there's going to be this, really good thing because all of a sudden people are buying things, and then people are going to kind of shuffle right to that. And then that item's going to go way up kind of falsely. And then whoever started it's going to sell out and then it's going to kind of drop. But then all these people are going to sit there and then they'll move to the next thing. And we're going to continue to see that. And I don't think it's just going to happen in the actual modern stuff necessarily completely. I think you're going to start seeing it in some of the other stuff like Sun and Moon, going back to even XY Evolution stuff, because I was just doing some research on even XY Evolution stuff, just like you were saying. There's a lot of weird movement happening in XY Evolutions right now. It really is actually, there's a lot of stuff that's dropping that I wouldn't have thought would have been dropping. And some of the stuff that I thought would be gaining is actually going flat. It's really weird. Like Flashfire, for example, is an expensive set. I get it. I mean, it's running about $1,800. There hasn't been a sale on Flashfire for almost 2 months that I can find.
So it's down that low to 1,800.
It's 1,800 right now. The last sale was like for 18,999. It's listed a lot of places for like 25, but there have been no sales anywhere near that. So that tells me your market value is actually down under 2,000 on that set because that's where it's sold. So once again, you could sit there and say, my thing's worth $2,500. But once again, it comes back to like we just talked about earlier. If you can't sell it at that price, is it really that price? Or are you going to have to back down if you need to sell it down to that $1,900 range in order to pull it off?
It's a good way to look at it. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a good way to look at it. I don't know what you would do in that situation,
So it just comes down to how quickly you want to sell something. How long do you want to sit on it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know, anyone who's getting Evolution's cards back right now have to not be feeling too good about now, especially if you're getting 8s and 9s. I mean, 10s, you might have some chance of them, recovering, but everyone's getting 8s and 9s, right? I mean, everyone sent their cards in pack fresh. So, I don't even want to know what the pop reports are going to be when this era is over. But yeah, Evolution is going to be one of those things. Hey, luckily you have it in your collection, display them in your closet, get as much enjoyment out of them as possible, because a lot of those 8s and 9s, they're going to stay at that $20 to $50 price range for a long, long time, I think.
I think so. I mean, the interest, like you said, you go back to WotC and why are those PSA 10s going to do extremely well? Why are those potentially 9s? I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of 9s come back any longer either. A lot of people just sent their playing decks in because, they were listening to Alfie Investments over there, sitting there telling people to send, if you got WotC, send it now. And that's what caused this whole thing, is that everybody sent every WotC card they own in for grading. I mean, I'm seeing Poliwags and Poliwhirls and all that coming back. And it's like, these cards aren't valued at anything. So why did you bog down the market with these cards? But, WotC isn't going to get very many 10s just because nobody cared for the cards. Even myself, I played with cards. I never put cards in card sleeves when I was playing them. I used to shuffle them and throw them around and then play them. And they were all scratched up and all bent up and all beat up. The only person I know of, I have one friend that has a first edition Charizard. And I brought this up before. I know this thing is probably a 10. I would put my money on it because he bought it when Pokemon first came out. He was 2 years younger than I was. He bought it. He put it in a sleeve. He put it in a binder, in an actual, like the Pokemon style binders. So the really nice hard cased ones. And it's sat since. He never played. He just put the cards away. So he's got a bunch of first edition cards right now sitting there that are probably in just mint condition.
That's crazy. I think it's graded at that point.
He won't. And he said, his reasoning why is sound. Why does he want to get it graded? Because it's going to cost him $5 to $10,000 to get it graded. So the only way he's going to be able to grade that card is to sell other cards or sell that card in order to pay for the grading.
Oh yeah,
so,
I see what you're saying. If you're not going to sell it, why grade it?
Well, that's what he said. It's safe where it's at. He wanted me to take it out of the binder, and I'm just like, nope, no. I'm not touching that. That can stay right in the binder sheet. I'm not even taking it out of there because that thing is just way too expensive.
So I wanted to get your opinion on this too. Do you get a lot of those comments from people about sealed product value? Because I guess comments sometimes about, I guess people either they don't understand or they just don't, maybe are angry about sealed product value, when it goes up in value, kind of not in line with what the cards inside are worth. I mean, you see this obviously as sets get older. And so especially like when you get into X and Y, I don't know if Sun and Moon is getting to the point where it's old enough and you're starting to see it happen, but you definitely see it X, Y, black and white and farther back. But like, like an XY base set box is $1,000 and the best card you can pull is like a full art Blastoise that's worth $50 near mint. And so a lot of people, use those metrics to say, well, that steel product's overvalued. It's not really worth that much because the cards inside aren't valuable. And, it's only as valuable as the packs inside. And, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like sealed collection takes on a life of its own. Sealed product does as it gets older. The best possible example of this is light packs. Why are people buying light base set, jungle, fossil? Why are people buying light packs? They're guaranteed to get nothing but commons and a non-hollow rare. It has nowhere near the pack value. It's just because the actual value of the sealed product takes on a life of its own when it becomes scarce. So I was wondering how you usually respond to that type of stuff.
So I actually did a video on this probably
Oh, you
6 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, where kind of laid it out. And the explanation that I've come up with is it's just like a trickle down effect. As a set gets older, you start to see more deviation, right? You start to see a deviation between the sealed product from booster boxes. Now we've got ETBs in the mix, but from booster boxes to ETBs to tins to packs, all the way down to singles. And usually the back of the pack is the singles. And what makes sense, and this is where I've discussed this with other people, the one reason that this makes sense is because booster boxes are never getting replenished. ETBs are never getting replenished. Even coming down to some tins and some of those other small items, those are never getting replenished. But what's the one thing that's always being replenished in the actual market itself? What's the one thing that keeps coming back? You get packs. That's why pack prices are always down there. And you're always getting singles, because if people are opening, you're getting more singles. So thus, those prices just seem to always fall behind further and further, because it's the one item that's going up in supply while all the rest of them are going down. The longer the set's there, the more the sealed products, booster boxes, ETBs, and tins go down, but the packs and the singles go up. They continue to move upwards because people open booster boxes, people open ETBs, it adds packs, it adds singles. So that's going to continually be a trend that you're going to keep seeing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's obviously the go-to too, is the whole sealed product over singles. Is sealed product does nothing but go down, singles do nothing but go up, basically over time. So yeah, I mean, I feel the same exact way. I just get that question asked a lot, and I feel like people they almost tie the value of products to what's inside a little too often. And I just think it takes a little looking outside the box sometimes. I asked the chat to send us in some questions, so see if anyone's got anything for us.
Yeah, and I mean, I've just been kind of going through, B Purple Poker just put on here, if you can get a pair of Evolutions ETBs for 370, 380, I feel like that's a low risk, steady appreciating set. I think so. 100 Evolutions just blows my mind. If you actually think about how much stock is still out there of that, it makes no sense, the pricing on it, but it's not going backwards. And I think 90% of that is that people just don't want to sell it lower. And
People thought Evolutions would be the set to crash the hardest, remember?
Well, I thought it would too. And I mean, realistically, it was at $1,200, and now what's it down to $600? Last time I looked, it's been months since I've even looked at it. To be honest with you, I just don't, like I've said before, I don't like reprint sets. So I really don't follow it all that much. I know it's there. I know it's like everybody's like gold standard of modern Pokemon, but I just really don't really get into Evolutions all that much, just because I have booster boxes. It's just not my thing.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, it'll always hold a special place in my heart. It's kind of a set where it was big when I was, really getting into Pokemon again. So that's why I kind of remember it as that point. But no, I completely understand what you're saying though. But hey, Legendary Collection was that set for people, and look what happened to that. So
I know. I like I said, it's just me personally. I never get into reprint sets, just because it's like, if I'm going to sit here and spend that much money on some Evolutions, why not get a Shadowless or get a unlimited print Charizard? I mean, realistically, why not just spend the extra money and get the originals versus going for the knockoffs? The only one that I said on reprints that I like was Legendary Collection, and I did like it when it came out. Where I didn't like the regular cards, but I love the reverse hollows. So that was really the only thing out of Legendary Collections that I liked, the reverse hollows, even back then. So that was just me, though. I mean, like I said, sometimes I'm weird on some things and I don't have interest in them. And some people say I'm nuts because of it, but it's just my personal way that I do things and the way I think.
Hey, Eva's Binder. So Eva's Binder will be on the channel tomorrow at 3 p.m., just so everyone out there who's watching this knows. But she made a really good point that over time, singles approach a limit in that they can't exceed the original sealed amount. So in terms of vintage, it's less of a concern. And that's a good point, because that's true. So there's only as many singles as there is vintage out there, as there is product out there. So as enough that product gets opened, you know, you kind of reach the point where you know how many singles are going to be out there, kind of like we talked about with 0.8% of the cards coming back as PSA 10s. You're reaching a point now where you have a good idea how many PSA 10s are going to be out there of first edition base, of, you know, first edition jungle, things like that. They're going to move up slowly and surely, but you're not going to see these crazy, you know, pop report jumps. And so that's what's going to make, you know, the PSA 10 vintage a lot, you know, especially in the first editions, a lot safer than the lower grades. So yeah, I think that's a really good point to mention for sure.
It is, but I still look at it going, you know, if you go with that idea, is that you got to make sure that 100% of the product is open in order to know you've hit that maximum limit. As long as there's still sealed booster boxes and there's still sealed product, and you don't know what's inside of it. How many more first edition or unlimited or shadowless Charizards are still out there? How many booster boxes are left? I think we got an idea how many first editions are left, but realistically, I don't know if we know for sure. And as long as those are still there, how many Charizards are in all them boxes?
I'm going to say 69.
Definitely. Had to throw it in here. I got it in here today. I'm going to go back to Digi Smithy here because he directed one to both of us, and he said, "Can you discuss the term near mint? Because in TCG Player, I always assume people expect Gem Mint 10, but technically PSA 7 and through 9 is near mint." So when you're talking about raws, near mint is the highest quality you can get. And the reason being is that without the gem mint only comes into graded cards. Near mint is a raw card quality. You've got near mint, lightly played, moderately played, and heavy played, and then damaged. So realistically, when you're talking about graded, yes, 7 through 9 is near mint. And that's pretty much when you're talking graded cards, when you're listing graded cards, that is your assumption is that you're going to get a 7 or better when you buy a near mint card or from a raw. So that's realistically where that comes from. The gem mint is just grading. It's just a grading term that showed up when PSA started grading these things, and it's just something that stuck. I mean, you could even call it diamond mint or diamond if you wanted to, and it wouldn't make too big of a difference. It just means that at a 10, it's the gem mint best quality you're going to get.
Yeah. And hey, I mean, it all really depends on who you're buying from. If you're talking about TCG Player, I mean, listen, I've literally bought cards from TCG Player near mint and graded them back in the day as PSA 10s. So there are gem mint cards that come through TCG Player near mint. Now you can also get them. They can have a good amount of whiting on there, and it's probably barely a 7. So, you know, it's kind of a trial and error finding the stores that, you know, you order some things through, and they always come in those, you know, 9, 10, you know, 8, 9, 10 conditions. They're in really good shape. And you just kind of keep ordering from that store, even if you have to pay a little higher margins. But yeah, I mean, you're right though. It can range all over the place. You know, a lot of people don't understand how bad 7s can actually look and get a 7. Oh, yeah. I mean, if anyone has, and especially back when in the 2 million certification numbers on PSA before they really kind of up their grading. I mean, 7s are pretty low grade sometimes. So just remember that when you're ordering near mint, don't always be expecting this absolute perfect car with perfect clean corners and, you know, no smut. It's not like that.
No. And I mean, even myself, you know, even Digi Smith, he says a little bit further down here, does centering affect condition and raw? No. I mean, honestly, a lot of people don't even. So for example, when I look at it, when I'm selling stuff on TCG Player, if it comes out of a pack, like when I'm selling my extra pulls, it comes out, it goes in a sleeve, and it's protected. I don't really sit there and treat it like a grading card company where I'm checking edges. I'm not looking at edge wear. I'm not looking at whitening. I'm not looking through it for full scratches. And I'm definitely not checking the centering all that well. It's never been played. It's never been used. It's going to be put on for sale as a near mint. Now, like you're saying, I like to actually search through a lot of the, and this kind of contradicts you to myself, I know, but I'm just going to tell you what I do just because I'm open about these things. I always go for the bigger companies when I'm looking for cheaper, what's considered lightly played cards when I'm trying to purchase things. Them guys that have the, you know, big ratings, 50,000 sales in the last year and have like that gold vendor or whatever it is on them, because they don't want to have any dispute. So what I've found is that they tend to sell stuff as lightly played because they don't want to get a bad review. So sometimes if you buy quite a few cards from them in that lightly played category, you'll actually get gem or near mint cards in there just because they don't want to chance their high ratings on TCG Player or Total Control or wherever you're purchasing it from. It's just a safety net for them to lose a little bit of money to be sure that they don't get that, lose their ratings and fall down in the rankings.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, I mean, for anyone, even for, just as a regular seller selling on eBay, you always want to kind of aid on the, side on this, in the side of, over promise under, over deliver under promise type thing, because, you don't want to hurt your ratings. Someone asked a question about bulk. I don't really have too much to say about bulk. Most places give you like 2 or 3 cents a common. When you get up to like hollows or rares, I think they get up to what, like 6, 8 cents, maybe 10 cents. Mm-hmm. And then, when you get up to like bulk EX, GXs, I think it's like 50 cents and so on up there. It's not a lot. Yeah, with Pokemon, competitive play coming back, I think it's always a good idea to hold on to your bulk and just pay attention, because, you're paying for shipping when you send in bulk as well, unless you have a local card shop. So after you, fill all your bulk forms, you pack them up, you pay for the shipping, you're really getting like less than 2 cents a card, really. And so, all you have to do is hold on to that. And if any of the cards spike, you're basically going to make more off those than you are going to make sending in bulk. So if you got the space, if you got some patience, I would recommend holding on to bulk, or, at the very least, it's not a lot of money you're going to get from bulk. I mean, you just give it to, I don't know if you have any kids in your life, or, nephews or nieces, maybe even give it to them so they can enjoy it. Cause it's kind of negligible. What do you think?
See,
for you, it's different. You run a full store on TCG Player. For anyone out there who is just like a collector, a single person, they don't have a store, that's my advice. Now, Northwoods is going to have different if you're actually trying to run a business. Go ahead.
Well, I don't really, it's my side business. It's not like I'm trying to do things, but I do tend to watch. Like now I'm happy because Worlds is back. So now it gives me a really good direction to be able to sell cards on TCG Player. So what I tend to do is I usually break down my bulk, and I usually try and keep a lot of trainers, usually separate out the trainers by set, just for my ease of looking through them later. The other thing is that I usually keep my sets. If you're doing bulk, this is my suggestion. If you're ever looking at trying to sell these things and make maximum profit on your bulk, start breaking them down by your set. So keep your Sword and Shield set in its own box. Keep your Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, keep them all in their own boxes. Because what'll happen is now that Worlds is happening, you can actually go look at players' decks right now on Limitless. I think it's Limitless. I can't remember if it's .com or .org or whatever it is. But you can go to the Limitless. If you look it up, it's on. You can just Google it. And Limitless TCG. If you Google that, it'll show up. They actually list out all the cards, the number of cards they use, and their battle decks that they use for all of these regional competitions right now. So what I've been seeing is I look at that and I say, okay, these cards and these trainers are used on every single one of these battle decks. And what I do is then I go through my bulk and the trainers and I go, okay, here's that. And I list them on TCG Player. I can actually, like you said, typically you get like 2 cents per card for bulk. But if you know which ones they are and you can find them rather quickly, you can make 10, 20, even $1 on some of these bulk cards that you wouldn't have even looked at. The Inteleon non-hollow from Sword and Shield. I probably had about 12 of those, 13 of them that I've pulled from packs, and they were in my bulk, in my rare bulk from Sword and Shield. So all I did is I put them up on for sale, and I sold them all for $4.25 a piece. Just because they were selling, used in Worlds, people start watching those decks and people start mimicking them decks, and then they start selling these bulk. Overall, though, that when a set goes out of rotation and it's no longer in tournament play, then it's already set up to where I've got them as common, uncommon, my non-hollow rares, my reverses and rare hollow rares, and then they all just get bundled up, and I'll send 10,000, 15,000 cards at a time to whoever's giving me the best price time, whether it's 4.5 cents or down to, lately I've been waiting to see if I can get it up to about 4.5 cents. So I don't mind if I sit on it a little bit longer to do so.
So you have to be opening up quite a bit of product to get this much bulk, correct?
I open way too much product. I put this good front on right here that I don't open anything, but yeah, I gotta open stuff.
Where are all the pack openings on the channel then? You don't upload those? You don't upload all the pack openings onto the channel?
No, I used to do that. That's what Jacob and I actually did a lot of when I first started the channel up until about August, September. I started kind of shifting over more and more to this. You know, the problem is with pack breaking, as I said before, it's just really difficult to make it as entertaining as some of them bigger guys. You know, I'm not hiring an editor as some of these guys are doing, and I'm not hiring outside sources to build up big flashy pullouts and stuff with what you're pulling, like Leonhardt does, or like PokeRev with all of his stuff he's doing. It's just people come to watch openings and they seem to go to those channels. And I've had people that I've been friends with that are still doing opening channels, and they're sitting there back at like 300 to 400 subscribers, and we all started about the same time. And it's just, you can't get momentum in that market on YouTube. People want to see the big guys do it because they're an entertainment, and people are paying for an entertainment when they're purchasing from them and when they're viewing them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been asked to start doing pack openings, and I mean, I thought about it, you know, to kind of break up the content, you know, to kind of break up the investing content a little bit. And I literally, you know, filmed the video and I rewatched it and I just said, yeah, I can't put this out there. I just deleted it. It's really hard. You know, those guys make it, you know, PokeRev and Leonhardt and those guys, they make it look easy. It just seems like, oh my gosh, he's just opening some Pokemon cards. But just to get the opening right, keep everything on camera, to have the face cam right, to remember to look up at the face cam. And it's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It's not as easy as, you know, it's all played out to be. So I agree with you. It's a whole different world.
Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, I was getting pretty good at it, but even still, I just was never getting the overall results that I was looking for when it came down to it. I just wasn't, I felt like I could never really be as good as them guys, and it just really wasn't working. So, and what I was finding is that I was doing, you know, I always had what I call Poke Talk Day, where I was doing a Poke Talk where I was discussing, you know, don't buy this, or, you know, wait on this market, kind of warning people even all the way back.
I could put on a channel one day for some investing advice.
Well, and I didn't do that. I mean, I was doing investing advice when I started the channel because, like I said, the biggest thing is even when I was first starting the channel, Jacob was really the reason I started the channel. And because he wanted to open, because he was watching Leonhardt and PokeRev, and he wanted to do what they were doing because it was fun to do. So I wanted to show him you can do these things. It's not impossible to get on there and do that. But, you know, you kind of learn that my viewing was going more towards the marketing and the Poke Talk that I was calling at the time, where I was discussing, you know, be careful with this, watch this, dude, you know, make sure you're not buying Shining Fates at $140 because there's going to be a ton of reprints. So don't worry about it. You know, just wait. You don't have to be the first person to pull a Charizard. You can sit there and wait on it unless you're trying to make market prices and sell this thing. And I found that those videos were doing extremely successful. And like I said, I just kind of kept evolving into the next, you know, pretty soon it was 3 openings a week, 1 Poke Talk. And then it was 2 and 2. And then it went to, you know, Jacob started losing interest, and, you know, then I started just going fully into this. And Jacob and I still open packs. We spend about $200 to $300 on every set, and we open it. We want to enjoy it. We want to have fun. That's like I said, Brilliant Stars was a lot of fun because I didn't do a ton of market research. I didn't dig into every card and every secret rare into it. I didn't know what all the cards were going to be into it until we opened our first ETB, and I could pull the book out and actually look at it and go, wow, look at this card. This is going to be fun to try and find. And that's what I'm doing now from now on with sets. It's just more fun.
Yeah, it's more enjoyable. I get it. I mean, who knows? Maybe, you know, PokeRev and those guys have made it to a point where it's almost like a nature to them and it is enjoyable. You know, maybe it's just kind of, they've reached that point, you know, and maybe it just takes practice to get to there. I don't know. But I definitely know what you're saying though about that. It's a different animal. The worst part of opening something on camera is actually the times you don't and get something really good. That's so true. I've had great openings that I wish I would have had filmed.
I was sitting here. So I was sitting here and I was just knockout boxes. I was kind of dinking around and I was just kind of had the camera set up, but I was kind of messing around with it. And it's like, so here I am going through the knockout boxes, pulling Cosmic Eclipse. And of course, I'm a sucker for Cosmic Eclipse. I love the set. That was actually one of my favorite sets, in Sun and Moon era when I was coming back into it. And I was laughing because I'm sitting here and I'm just taking the packs. The camera's kind of looking at me because I was just kind of playing with the camera setups because I was trying to get ready for my 1,000 subscriber box break. So I was kind of just playing with it and testing it. Here I am just kind of, flipping card, messing around, flipping the cards, the commons and stuff, pull out the Blastoise and flip up Rainbow Rare out of the set. I'm like, really? That would have been like even a fantastic short to pull that out. And here it is, just all a disaster because I'm just testing camera. And it's like, well, cool card. Awesome.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know. I know Rudy's talked about this in his videos before and kind of his long rants. It's like it's not totally. I mean, you have a kid, so it's a lot different. Me and my wife don't have any kids, but it does get to that point where once you've crossed that line into investing and business and reselling and all that, it's so hard to go back to that just absolute, just blissful joy as a child and just being able to open cards and not even worry about what it's worth, because even when you're trying not to, you immediately think, you pull it and you're like, oh man, that card's going for $50 right now, and
yeah, I know.
It automatically is in your head. Should I get rid of this now before the prices drop? I wonder how the market's going to do. And it's like, it's so hard to ever go back to that time where you literally do not care what it costs. You just want to pull that card and you love it. And, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad it gets to that point in life, but unfortunately it's where I think both of us are at.
Yeah. And that's just it. And that's, during the whole boom stuff, it was so difficult to find stuff. And I don't know, like I said, I just enjoy opening packs. I do. And I always set a budget, and that's what I always tell people. If you want to open packs, set a budget. If you want investing and you want to sit there and speculate on stuff, you need to learn that you got to separate two accounts. You have to have your opening account, and then I have my, put away investment account. And that account is just strictly, if I buy something from that, it gets put in my storage unit. That way it's miles away from me so that I can't just go, I feel like opening up something today. So, wow, let's just open this up. And it was just funny because it's like, my wife sits there and goes, well, why don't you keep them things in the bait? No. Them are going away from me because otherwise I will just go, yeah, I feel like opening a booster box of Evolving Skies today and searching for that Umbreon. Why not? Let's have some fun. Hardest thing I got is on my shelf.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it away from me because if it's in here, at least I'm amazed that I've actually had enough resilience. I don't know, you can't really see them, but I've got the ETBs up here, the Hidden Fates and the Champion's Path. Mm-hmm. You know how many times I've had the urge to just rip that Hidden Fates ETB down and just tear into that thing just because I love Hidden Fates. It'd just be fun to do. And that's one of the first print run ones. So it's got probably some pretty good hit rates in it.
I mean, I have stories about that. Just, I've reached a point where I'm a little more self-controlled, but I still do store everything at my house for the time being. But yeah, I remember back when Evolutions was cheap. So when, that you were still getting them for in the 80s a box. Oh man, I remember I had an operation the next day, so I had to stay up all night. I couldn't eat and stuff, and so I was just staying up because I had to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. And I opened a box, and it turned into 2. And by the time the night was over, I had opened a case of Evolutions. And the way I kept like making it make sense to myself is I kept pulling like a Charizard. So I'd open one box, I'd pull like the full art Charizard and like another Mega Charizard, and I'd be like, well, that's basically the value of the box back. So I can open another one. So then I'd pull the hollow Charizard. I'd be like, hey, I'm getting my value back. I'm just going to keep opening. And by the time I got through like 6 boxes, I look back and I'm like, what have I done? And back then it's only, you went through like $400 and something or whatever. But, looking at the values now, you look back and you're like, I opened like $5,000 of product. What was I doing? If I would have just held it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And that's what Alex just said. Alex has got the same mentality I do. If I want to open something, I go to my LGS or I go to Walmart to go buy something I want to open. And I just mentally, I got that blocker on me that I'm not touching that. I am just not going to go there because if I do, I'm not going to stop. And it's not worth crossing that bridge.
What did I say? B Purple Poker said, shh, don't say that. I don't know what I said. Is it open in the evolutions boxes?
We got to remember, prior to October of 2020, we opened probably a case of them, but I was buying them for $79,
Yeah.
$80 a booster box back in 2019 to early 2020. They weren't that expensive, and they were everywhere. You could have gone to anywhere. I mean, my LGS probably had 300 of them in boxes that they just couldn't sell. They were sitting there forever.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, it kind of brings me to a great topic I wanted to bring up is, so I think this definitely goes for the newer people in the hobby. It even goes for me still, you know, when I look at guys, you know, like Jake and Pokenomics and SM Pratt and, you know, the huge collections that people have, right? Yeah. So when people hear, you know, these stories like we're talking about where we open all this product just on a whim. So, you know, when people like Jay, people like SM Pratt, they have these giant collections, these giant net worths in Pokemon where their investments have just exponentially went so high. And it's kind of the mindset you get when you have investments that have risen so much. You start to like take bigger risks or do more things, you know, with your items, because it almost becomes like easier to do. So it's like when the boom was happening and suddenly these, you know, vintage, you know, boxes that I had, these base set, you know, these first edition WotC boxes I had went from being worth $2,000 to $20,000 and $30,000. It wasn't that big of a deal. It's like, oh yeah, I'll open, you know, a few $100s in modern product, you know, I'll take it out of the investment, because you just have these huge giant gains. And I think that's why those guys are able to take the chances they're willing to take and all the speculation they're willing to do on singles, is because when you're up so much, you know, there's not really a limit to the amount of mistakes you can make on the short term, or, you know, get a few things wrong here and there, because the ones you get right are still going to be home runs. You've already made all these home runs. And so it allows you to be a lot more, you know, kind of out there with your risk taking, instead of, you know, when you're starting out or when you have a lot smaller collection or a smaller kind of nest egg to invest in, you have to be a lot more selective, and you're so much worried about every item you buy and every dollar you make or lose. And so I do want to, you know, kind of make that known that, hey, if you are out there and you are starting out, have a smaller collection, have a smaller amount of money to invest, you know, don't look at people that are taking, you know, high speculative plays. Like, yes, they might pay off, but, you know, you might not be in a position where you could handle the ones that don't pay off. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I mean, the biggest thing is that I preach a lot is do budgets, guys. If you're doing investment, or if you're looking at speculating in Pokemon or any kind of TCG, I mean, even if you're looking at MetaZoo or any of them, the biggest thing is that you need to be able to realize what your extents are and how much you can do. And I know some people on my channel are kind of getting sick of it, because like every 2 weeks lately, I've been telling people, you know, check your budgets, sit down and make sure. There's so many things changing in pricing in your home. You don't realize how many things are adapting, moving, and going up in price. Your fuel bill's going up, your food bill's going up. Me, myself, I'm not putting as much towards Pokemon right now because I just don't have it. There isn't the ability to put it in there just because our expenses have gone up with 3 kids. You need to watch that though, because the more that you sit there and continue to look at the risk return, yes, you can get, like I did with Evolving Skies, and get that good return on a risk. But how many times has that not paid off? Look at Battle Styles. People are buying Battle Styles, just using Modern as a quick example right up front. You could sit there and buy Battle Styles. If you would have bought it in the first wave, when it first came out, they were going for $180 to $184 a booster box for weeks. And then that second reprint came, which everybody just said was absolutely ridiculous, which, yeah, it was heavy, you know, but it just completely washed that price out. And I had people even messaging me going, you know, I screwed up. I know you've said don't buy this, but I got, you know, bought 3 cases of this at $180 a booster box. What do you do? You know, and it's like, well, you know, one of 2 options. Either you wait 10 years, hope that Battle Styles climbs back up to that point, or B, your other option is to do cost dollar averaging. You know, it's $72 a box right now. Start buying until you average it down to where it can actually make it in the next couple of years. So, I mean, it really does come down to the risk reward. And if you look at them bigger guys, you know, I just watched, I don't remember who it was. One of the bigger guys, it was either Jake or someone else was talking about how they went to PWCC and they went hog wild. They bid on $140,000 worth of PWCC cards if they had won, they would have had over $140,000 they would have to pay. And he's like, well, I had it. It wasn't a big deal. But yeah, some of that stuff got bought out by other people. It's like, I'm sitting here going, if I had to spend $144,000 right now because I went hog wild on PWCC, I would be like selling my house, half my,
Right.
half my, all my possessions, hoping to try and find that kind of money. And that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize, like you said, you don't realize how much money these guys have that they're circulating continuously versus someone like you and I who maybe don't have, like I said, I'm usually around $8,000 a year, usually circulating around in a Pokemon TCG. It's growing every day. It's growing depending on the sales and stuff, but it's definitely nowhere near where I could be anywhere near putting $140,000 on graded cards on PWCC.
Yeah, like I said, it all comes down. I mean, I'm not anymore. It all came down to back when during that boom, it just kind of got. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just euphoria, right? You saw these boxes you had basically for your permanent collection. Maybe worth $20,000 at the time. All of a sudden overnight be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it warped my mind. And so I was buying things that normally I would never, ever, spend that much money on a card or a product. But because in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, well, I have a $20,000 booster box sitting here now. I can just sell that if I ever get into trouble. And so it kind of starts to warp your mind. So I would just say anyone out there, just try to stay grounded and really, before you buy anything, really make sure you understand the actual value, the actual, risk to reward ratio and what you're buying. Because, when you start getting up on your investments, when you start, putting some stuff away, and then, all of a sudden over time you have some UPCs and the UPCs are up in value. And then you have some Evolving Skies and those are up in value. And maybe you have some stuff back from Sun and Moon. And now you look in your closet and say, well, all this is paid for. I have, $20,000 in items sitting here. Maybe I can take some higher risks. That's when you start to get hit. And that's when you start to ruin all that hard work, all those smart decisions you did by making, a few bad decisions because you feel like, oh, I'm ahead. I can take some bigger risk and speculation now. So yeah, it's kind of always staying in your lane, don't look at whatever people are doing and think that you'd have to jump in, just everyone's got different goals in life. Everyone's got different lives, different goals, different, family life, like you were talking about. So, just because you see one person do one thing, it doesn't mean that, they're living anywhere near the same lifestyle or, doing the same things as you are in yours. So yeah, I would just say stay in your lane is the main focus. What would you say?
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is, even when you watch those channels, take everything that they say, any channel, even my own, take everything with a grain of salt. Make sure you do your own research. Be sure that what you're looking at, you're able to pull off, and make sure that you're not overextending yourself in order to do something. There's right now a big movement to try and go after things in the past. And it's, there's been a lot of learning curves. There's been a lot of things that have changed, a lot of directions. Even myself, you kind of evolve to try and be sure that you're not making bad calls for people. So you change the way that you word things, or you change the way that the hardest thing on YouTube that I will tell anybody is trying to realize that who you're talking to out there may not have the experience set that you do. And maybe when you talk about something, they take it a completely wrong direction. And you need to try and sit there, even myself, try and evolve and change and tweak the way you say things to prevent that from happening at the most that you can. I mean, you can't prevent everybody from taking all of your information and just running wild with it and going buying everything you put on there. But you always try and sit there and discuss things to be safe about it. Be sure that you're doing your budgets. Be sure that you're looking at how much you think. Make sure you're putting money in other retirements, and then TCGs are your final set. That's the biggest things that people need to realize and think about when it comes down to this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying not to end up on an episode of Pokemon Knowledge's reaction videos. So I really gotta be watching what I say. That could be detrimental to me in the future if I give some bad advice.
The best part about that video is that I like Knowledge, and I really do like his content. And that video just kind of drove me crazy because it was like he was going after a content creator that was no longer even in the hobby and just went full out ape beating on a dead corpse to try and prove a point which really didn't even have a point to be proved because he wasn't saying buy them now. He wasn't saying buy PSA 10s. Nowhere in there in the whole video did he say that. The whole video right at the beginning was the best investment cards from 2020 because it was done on December 24th or released December 26th, I think. So it was the end of the year, what he thought would be the best cards to invest in from 2020. He didn't say invest now. He didn't say buy PSA 10s or any PSA cards. He just said these were going to be the top 10 investment cards from 2020 and gave the current pricing and, you know, what PSA 10 forms were, which all of us did. Even me, when we were starting out doing opening videos, you'd pull a card and, oh, this is a PSA 10 valued this. You know, we've all stopped that since then. But at the time, that was pretty much it. And it was just funny because it's like you're taking things out of context. You're comparing PSA 10 prices then and now on brand new sets, especially Vivid Voltage and Darkness Ablaze and Champion's Path, because they were all within the 4 months that they were released and in the boom. But realistically, I'm investing in those cards now. I'm purchasing Amazing Rares. I'm purchasing Darkness Ablaze Charizards. I'm looking at Champion's Path Charizards. I'm looking at Chunkachu all the time, trying to see if we can get that. Those are all cards that are actually the good investments from 2020. And I like I said, I just don't. I get where he's coming from. You know, once again, it came down to it may have been unclear what his intentions were on that video, but in general, he never stated buy something. He never stated TSA 10 is the only thing to purchase and invest in. He was giving you a top 10 list from 2020 that you could watch or do whatever you wanted with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I also think there was probably, I mean, I'm not naming any names. I'm not going to do that, but I'm willing to bet there were probably a lot worse examples out there that he could have used too. I mean, I don't know why he chose Pokenav and those.
Because he wasn't in the hobby anymore. It was an easy target with nobody coming back at him.
Yeah, there were some, you know, I'm sure you remember, there were some really out there predictions and things like that. I mean, all over the spectrum. I mean, from every card, modern, vintage, sealed, unsealed. I mean, it was all over the place. People were saying, I mean, and then, you know, I think kind of the end of the mania is when it got to those ridiculous jungle, you know, Pikachus and those modern, you know, those common cards. And it just got to the point where everything was going, you know, wild. And
oh, yeah.
And people were pushing it all the way till the end. I mean, it never stopped. I mean, people were still pushing those things, you know, those jungle Pikachus when they were $500 a card or something. I mean, it never ended.
There were people out there back then, you know, when that Chunkachu was $600. I remember, and like you said, I know these channels are still active, and I don't want to have to start this fight in some group, one of their fan base coming in and starting to say stuff about it. But they were saying, this Chunkachu will be a $1,200 to $1,400 card in 2 years. Buy this card now. It's $600 and you'll make huge profits on this thing. And you sat there and went, are you freaking crazy? It's a brand new set, dude. It's only been out for 3 months. And yeah, I get it. It's 1,000 pack pull rate. I think it was 1,100 at the time when it first came out. I get it. It's a hard pull rate, but that card is not going to be $1,200 to $1,800 in the first 2 years of its existence. That thing's going to come way down and then it'll work its way back up as time continues on. So, like I said, it's just there was a lot worse content he could have gone after. But the problem is that, in my opinion, he went after the one person didn't have the fan base and he wasn't here any longer to defend himself, and it was an easy pick.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's all it came down to.
I mean, hey, speaking about like the crazy, you know, prices that people buy into, you know, to take the conversation away from that, because I don't want to attack people.
No.
So you know, what do you think about pre-release like prices? Like, why is this still a thing in 2022? I mean, it's literally like insanity at this point. I mean, you've seen it happen, I don't know, 100 times now with every other set, and people still buy in to pre-release prices on singles. And every time they absolutely tank. And then some of them come back. I think the Umbreon Altart actually finally came back and you know, broken his pre-release prices, and some of the Charizards do. But I mean, it's inevitable that after the release, you know, 2 months after the release, all those singles are, you know, 30% lower or something. I mean, Do you have any idea why people still buy these cards at pre-release prices, or is there any way we can stop this from happening?
I have no idea. It does blow my mind, and it really is kind of if we do it every time. And like you said, I don't understand why we see these cards like the Rainbow Charizard and the alternate. I mean, the only reason that you would ever spend that money, in my opinion, is for bragging rights. You're looking to brag that you have the card first, or you got it graded first, or you're trying to beat the market to try and get those people as fast as you can. You pull on a pre-release and you try and get it out there before these cards actually become widespread and make your top dollar. And people are buying them for that notoriety of being one of the first ones to own it. But realistically, it's completely nonsense to sit there and actually purchase these cards at the pre-release pricing, because 99.99%, of course, made up statistic, but it's just ridiculous how many times every card drops the second the release happens. The full release happens, and the card market, the singles just flood out. And realistically, why did you spend all that money up front when you knew that this was going to happen? And every wave that comes out is another chance for that card to sink further and further.
Yeah, I think what people are saying in the chat too. I mean, and I get that as well. People they want to spin that roulette wheel, right? They want to try and hit that number. And so I think a lot of them are literally buying them and trying to do the whole PSA 10, express grading, get them back and make their home run. But I mean, that's just such a risk, especially when you're buying something at pre-release. You don't even know what the print run, quality is. I mean, they might not even have PSA 10s in that print run the way it's printed. But I get it. It's you got to respect the hustle, respect the gamble, right? I mean, if someone's willing to pay those prices, take the risk of paying whatever PSA is charging for that, express order and try to get them back and throw them on the market for $800. But then it brings the other point up that who are the people buying those first PSA 10s at $800 or whatever it is? It's kind of the whole conundrum from both ways. It's kind of funny to watch, actually, because I don't know what the PSA 10 person's doing, because the gamble's over at that point. I mean, more PSA 10s are going to come. The price is going to go down. Maybe it's having the earliest, cert number of that card. I really don't know. I don't think that's a thing, but that's all I can really come to.
And that's just it. I mean, it really does come down to getting the PSA 10 first, getting that, say you're the pop one on it or whatever. But, some people don't care what they pay for things. I mean, some collectors don't care. It doesn't matter to them if they spend $800 for a card or $350 for a card. If they want it, they want it. I'm the same way. You can ask my wife. I'm impatient as heck sometimes. If I want something, I'm getting it. I'll find a way to buy it, even if I know it'll come down in 5-6 years. But hey, I want it now. I'm going to get it. And it's for my own personal collection. Why does it matter? Realistically, if you were to spend $600 on a Charizard when it first came out, get a PSA 10 and a 700 and 750, how many Charizards in 20 years and 25 years are going to be down below that price? Especially main set Charizards. Typically, they're going to be up above that. So if you're looking at the long-term game 20 years down the road, you're probably just going to be fine.
It goes back to what you said earlier about having like a collection, fund, and then also an investment fund, because, when it's your collection fund, it's basically like, your fund money. It's like, okay, well, we're not going to go out to dinner today. We're not going to, go see that concert, this month. I'm going to buy some Pokemon cards for my collection. And that's a lot different, because you're not worried about all the, ups and downs, all the numbers, trying to get the best possible price it's ever going to be at. It's entertainment for you. It's what you enjoy. So, you could have went out and wasted that money on a nice dinner. Instead, you wasted it on a Pokemon card. And that Pokemon card actually holds its value and has something, So, I mean, I definitely know where you're coming from there, because that's a major thing of people need to do if they are, quote unquote, wanting to invest in Pokemon product, is you need to make sure you're allocating if it's investment or collection, because it's not so much for, being a collector, investor, whatever you want to, consider yourself. It's more for, just your financial situation overall. If it's like just a collection, if it's just like just spending money, that's a totally different thing. Because if it's an investment, you're investing your money into it, well, if you eventually open it or, whatever you do with it, you're basically taking money out of an investment. That'd be like, going to your stock market account or your 401k, whatever it may be, and just literally taking money out and going and spending it. And that's how you need to kind of look at that. If you're putting things away for an investment, those should be put away, and the gains should be, put in to help your, overall net worth grow. And so that's why I would just tell people out there is try to find a way to separate the two, because, if you don't, I'm not saying it's ever going to hurt you. I mean, people, a lot of people don't, it doesn't make a huge difference, but it really will help out your budget a lot more if you really know where each dollar is going. Because if it gets all, intertwined, you really don't know where your money's going. You don't know what you're investing. Maybe you could have put it somewhere else, like the market. It could have done a lot better. It gets all kind of jumbled up if you do it that way. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. And that's just it. I mean, if you got fun money and for collection money, then go ahead and spend it how you want. That's what, like you said, if that's what you enjoy and that's what you want, there's no stopping it. It's like even booster boxes. If you want to spend $180 on a booster box because you want a booster box now, then do it. And it's going to, if you're looking at it for an investment point though, don't be expecting to be able to make those returns back. Or if you are, just know that you might be in this for the extreme long haul in order to pull that off. So there's just a couple things that, like you said, I have buckets, and I definitely stick to my buckets. There's an investing bucket, and then there's a fun money bucket. Then when a new set comes out, I open it. I have a collecting bucket, which is part of my fun money bucket, where I'll buy my collecting stuff. If I want a PSA card or want those kind of things, then I do it. It's just, that's my side money. If I want to do it, I do it. I'm not concerned about trying to make my money back on it at that point.
Yeah, I gotta touch on Marty the Martian's point. It's a really hard point to jump on. The best way to invest is just buying what you like, and everything you could enjoy potentially be an investment. All right. So if that works for you, that's great. If you're literally just in this hobby for the enjoyment, do that. Literally don't ever even pay attention to what the prices are going to do. Literally make it a collection, because once you cross that line, you can really never go back. The problem with that advice for other people is other people hear that and then they think, oh, okay, so I'll just buy things I like, and then in the future they're going to go up and be good investments. No, that's not necessarily true, because the masses may not like the things you like. And so you, like you said earlier, you can't go buy a PSA whatever Bidoof and think it's gonna, rise in value the same way a Charizard is going to. You may not even like Charizard, but Charizard could be a better investment in that case than the Bidoof would, right? And so when you're buying what you like, yeah, buy what you like if that works for you, if you're not super worried about it. But if you're literally asking a question, what do I invest in? What am I investing for the best returns? And people are telling you, just buy what you like. That's not good advice. You need to, if you're buying for investment purposes, you need to look at, the past data of cards, of sets, of Pokemon in general, see, if you want to be in sealed or you want to be in PSA cards, know the metrics of the risk to reward in each way. Know, what time frame you should be looking at, for the gains you're looking for. You need to look into all those things you're talking about in investment. So to just try to, try to separate the two. So it's a collection, make it a collection. If you're asking about investment, you can't, unfortunately, it can't always just be buy what you like. I'm sorry I had to say that.
And it depends on the level on which you want to invest in collecting. I mean, if you're at just doing it as a general, I'm just having fun, and if it goes, it goes, and if it don't, it don't, it's not a big deal. Then yeah, absolutely invest in what you love, because then, like you said, if it doesn't go, then you can have fun. You can open it with your kids. You can do whatever you want. But if you are realistically looking at this as an investment, and you are actually looking at this as a hardcore, I want to start making some profits and doing active investments and trying to make more, use markets and use these wave systems and do all these things, then you definitely don't necessarily want to be going by what you love. Because if that was the case, I would have bought a ton of the Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon VMAX boxes, because I love evolutions. But realistically, for an investment aspect, those are a horrible long-term investment, because they take up so much space for such little product inside of it. And my options are so limited inside of those boxes. Yes, they have 4 packs in it, but in the amount of space that I put those boxes, I could have put 4 times that in booster boxes in about the same amount of space. And how many more pack options do I have for that in the future? If for whatever reasons, when I need to break it down, let's say the booster boxes get really expensive, I can break them down and sell individual packs. Let's say that there's a great pull card like the Umbreon card. If I open up one of these booster cases, it might have actually had an Umbreon inside of one of those. So there's always options, and there's a lot of evolutions right now that if you could pull them out of cases, you could almost break even on the cases. I'm willing to bet if someone were to do the math on it, I don't know for sure. I haven't done it myself, but I'm sure if you were to figure out the actual alt art hits and stuff inside of a case, you'd probably break pretty even right now with the price of the alt arts that are out there right now, especially if you can catch that Umbreon reaching for the moon. So there's options.
Eva's not here anymore, but I'm sure if she was here, she could break it down and figure it out for us.
I'm sure she could. Maybe we should ask her afterwards. Are you seeing this? Because that Umbreon card is what? The last sale I think I saw was $380 for that, almost $400 for just that one card.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong. I remember I was seeing a couple sales on TCG Player and stuff going for like $380 on it. But still, you catch that card in a case plus the other alternate arts, you're going to be darn close to breaking even on a case and having the fun of opening all them packs. So, like I said, there's always that mentality when you come down to it. For the investment side is that if you're looking at investment, booster boxes for serious investment, booster boxes are a sealed side of things. Booster boxes are your most secure. ETBs are your most secure. And then after that, you can start looking at like hidden fates and specialty sets, looking at the tins and some of the other things. The reason I like specialty sets when it comes to tins and those kind of products is they're all the same pack. So if Hidden Fates is fantastic, all the products have Hidden Fates packs in it. They don't have mixed matched like all the other sets where you're getting, maybe 2 crap sets and 1 good set inside of it. You're getting all the same set and you know what they are.
Yeah, and also the benefit of going with the lower end items like the tins and things like that is as the prices rise, those are going to be more affordable for the regular people. So, if you get into tins at $15 or $20, whatever they may be, and everything rises. Now the elite trainer boxes are $300-$400 in the future, but the tins are only, I don't know, whatever that would be, $80, $100, $75, whatever. It's a lot easier for people to still buy the tins and open them. So those will be a lot more liquid. So it's nice to have that, combination of less liquid and more liquid things, higher and lower end. But go back to that point though. It's just like, I always think about that. Like, well, what if I liked, base set Poliwrath and Fossil Muck? What if those are my favorite cards,
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It's like, what if I just liked all the things that weren't popular? It wouldn't work out too good for me,
And you're absolutely right. I mean, that's just it. When it comes down to it is that just because you like something does not mean it's going to be generally accepted by the public. And a lot of times it takes a lot of market research, a lot of history searching, and really understanding the Pokemon market, the TCG market, if you're in multiples, and understanding what are going to be, extreme, what are going to be popular and what is not when it comes 10 years down the line. And that's where you always sit there and have, like we talked about earlier, you got the discretion. It is like I've talked about it several times. Is my son going to be interested in Gold Stars, first edition, going back to WotC, or is he going to be more interested in modern stuff? And that's the other thing is that we really are, as a investor collector for long term, you're going to need to really broaden your horizon and stop just looking backwards. You need to start looking at the current too for what's this generation going to be chasing? They may work back to it when they get into it, but realistically, they're not going to have the interest that they do. And my perfect example is, Pokemart USA and myself. I love it because with him and I quit Pokemon right when he started. So my last sets were Gold Stars and his first sets were level X's. I have no interest in level X's. I know that they're a good investment. I know that they're cool, but I don't really want to chase a level X. I want to chase a Gold Star and I want to chase shiny Pokemon from Neo. And I want to go back to the hollows from, Rocket, Jungle, Fossil, and base set. Mm-hmm. I level X's I know are expensive. I know that people like level X's. It's not me. I'm not chasing them. I'm not even really looking into them all that much. I mean, I know I watch them, but I don't really plan on ever buying them. Now, is that going to be the same thing for Jacob? Just looking at him. This generation now that's between the ages of 7 and 14.
So how old is Jacob?
How
old is Jacob?
He's 7 right now.
Okay.
Is he going to have any interest of going back all the way to base set first edition? He's never been exposed to it. He's going to know it's expensive.
First edition might be a bad.
Okay. Is he going to go back to black and white?
Just because the first set, basically, it's the first set ever. It's first edition. A lot of people will probably go there if they get enough money. But yeah, let's say like Gym Challenge. Like another.
I'm even going to go even newer, black and white. Is he going to have any interest in XY or black and white? I mean, he's open evolutions, so maybe he might have some interest in evolutions. But realistically, when the market went up so high, we haven't opened anything older than Sun and Moon, realistically. So his experience is rainbow rares, alternate arts, gold cards, amazing rares, and baby shinings. That's what he's going to remember. That's going to be his first memories when he's opening packs. 20 years down the road, 15 years down the road are those cards. So when he gets expendable money, is he going to be trying to spend money on, gold stars, level X's, or is he going to be looking for rainbow rares in modern, what's considered modern now?
Honestly, I mean, the whole Logan Paul thing just completely threw my head when all that happened. These were the thoughts I was having, and me and the friends I had, that we were investing together were having, and that's why we were putting away modern back then during XY and early Sun and Moon. And then when the whole Logan Paul thing happened and everything is, the gains we thought we were going to see over the next 10, 15 years happened in a year. And then it's like down this crash. It's like, I don't know. I'm kind of lost at what's going to happen in the future now. Cause that's the same thoughts I used to have is, hey, all these modern sets are going to be what the kid's going to come back to and open. So I'm going to put these evolutions boxes away. I'm going to put these burning shadows boxes away because that's what these kids are going to want to open. They're going to pull those Charizards. And then, it like, okay, well, I was hoping they would get to, $500, $1,000 a box in 10 years. Well, now they're 15 years. Now they did in a year. And it's like, okay, well, where else do they go from here? I'm kind of lost at, what the value of these things are going to be in the future. I mean, are we going to see these sets all in the thousands? I mean, is that a realistic possibility? I don't know.
Yeah. And, you sit there and look at it, and I just saw the comment here too, the people want to point out that he's going to look back too, that the current investors or the current generation that's opening packs are going to be looking back too. You have to remember what kind of costs they are going to be looking at 15 to 20 years on those sets. That's going to be such an elite group of people. In my opinion, they're going to be looking back at WotC, going to be looking back at gold stars. Look at the price of a gold star now. It's priced out probably 50 to 70% of the market right now, just in gold stars and level X's. What's that going to do in 15, 20 years? What is that going to run for pricing? He might look back and he may want to do it, but is it going to be realistic for these next generations to actually pull that off? Unless they become millionaires, you're going to be talking probably a very small fraction of the people are actually going to be able to go back that far at that point in time until we, bite the dust. And then our kids will be able to sell our stuff to a lot lower price in order to get it out of the house because they're tired of it tripping over it. I mean, that's realistically the cycle that we're going to be seeing.
Oh, it's so interesting, man. What are you thinking about? You about time ready to wrap up?
Yeah, I think so. About time caller night.
Is all right. Anyone out there, any last minute questions, send them in. We'll answer maybe one or two more if anyone's got any good ones out there. I know B Purple Poker. He's been active all night in the chat. So
I was going to say he's been at it.
Sword Shield. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people feel like that with their kids. Whenever their kids come back in, that their kids don't really care about the older stuff. I mean, hey, I'm even the same way. Like we were just talking about. I mean, I came back in during XY. I have a lot of love for XY. It doesn't have any super rare cards. It doesn't have a lot of value in the singles, but I love XY because that's when I came back in. Now going back to black and white, I barely know much about black and white. I didn't do a lot of research on it because I never really cared. I know everything like kind of like you up till about, Neo Destiny, up till, maybe into Legendary Collection. But after that, yeah, I mean, I know the sets. I've done research on the sets, but I don't really have a big like pool to invest into those things. So I get it, it's just going to be one of those things. The market's going to see a huge shift. And I think a lot of people aren't going to be ready for what's going to happen here.
And yeah, I mean, that's just it for me. I would love to go back all the way to base set. I would love to go back to all them sets, but I just don't have the pocketbook to be anywhere near them guys. You know, like I said, I don't have a pocketbook like SM Pratt or Pokenomics or some of these guys that are telling us that modern's not investable, because I just don't have that kind of budget in mind to be able to do that. So I enjoy these sets. I think there's some great opportunities right now, especially down the line. I definitely think that there's some good things and good potentials. Pokemon's doing a fantastic job, in my opinion, of giving out some really good cards, some really good artworks, and they're definitely working pretty decently to keep this moving forward. I'm not seeing them let off. I definitely think that they need to have, you know, a little bit better set layouts for playability and for collectible cards. But you got to remember that the Pokemon TCG's first concern and first thought is for players, and collectibles are second. They give us holiday sets a lot of times as a collection set. So when it comes down to it, that's my thoughts is that there's a lot of stuff now that will be really popular in the future. It's just a waiting game at this point.
I have the perfect last question. I've seen it like 4 times. So people want to hear about the MetaZoo.
Oh God.
What do you think about MetaZoo?
I get asked this question on every stream, I think. And I haven't really paid attention to MetaZoo in the last month and a half. I'm going to be honest. I don't know where it's at. I don't know what the tournament play ratio is right now. I don't know if it's actually starting to get tournament play more and more. I haven't even checked at my local LGS to see, you know, where things are at. I'd like to, like I said before, until I really see or hear about tournament play, I think that it's going to be a hard sell for me for an investment side of things. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. I like the cryptids, and I've always liked cryptid stuff. So I could see there being a potential, but it's the problem is with MetaZoo right now is it became such a speculator set right off the bat. Mike, when he went through and really started advertising it, he started advertising it to the people that had money. And when he did that, everybody in first edition bought up Cryptid Nation so fast, were all people that had money and had no intentions of ever playing it. It came out as an investor set. It ran as an investor set. It ran as paper currency, almost like an NFT versus an actual TCG. And I'd like to see it get in the field played. It does not have a anime. And until you start building an actual foundation for it, to me, it's a lot of speculation and a lot of hopes and prayers that this paper trail stays in the air until that base gets built. So as it becomes cheaper, as unlimited stuff starts getting out more and more, as it's more available at TCG or at the LGSs, it may start to become more popular. It may start to get some stuff. It may be successful, but it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to take 2 years before this really pans out. I don't know. Like I said, I see some other TCGs that I think are these a little bit better investment opportunities that are more secure than MetaZoo if you're actually looking outside of the Pokemon TCG. But that's where I'm going to leave it on that part of it. I don't know where your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan. I'll be honest. I'm not a fan of it. I think people are overlooking, kind of the big TCGs in the hobby, right? You have Magic, you have Pokemon, you have Yu-Gi-Oh. Magic did it without Magic did do it without an anime and games and all that. But look at Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, they went through years. I mean, we all grew up watching it on TV all the time, playing all the games. We bought them for PS2, bought them for GameCube, for Game Boy. Then they had the cards also. I mean, you're talking, 20 years with these hobbies that they put in to grow this. And it wasn't pitched as an investment tool. It wasn't pitched as like, you buy these cards to make money on. It was pitched as for fun. That's why we're all coming back to it. We love it so much. And we have so much nostalgia for it. And so, with MetaZoo coming out, it doesn't have a show. It doesn't have any games with it. It's literally just the cards. Like you said, they're not really being played. It's literally just an investment vehicle. And so, I mean, yeah, it's still hot right now. The hype's still going on. You got Rudy pushing it. But at the same time, it's just like, at some point, I feel like people are going to get bored. The next new shiny, investment is going to come around, and people are going to realize, hey, I was just in this for money. I don't have any connection to this. It's just something I jumped into. And, the reason people are so in love with Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because they have such a huge connection to it from their childhood, the nostalgia factor. And that's what makes, these games so huge. And I don't know, that's my feeling. I just don't think MetaZoo is going to have that long-term, growth. What do you think? Is that about right? Or
I think you're right. I mean, like I said, you go to Flesh and Blood, even My Heroes Academia, which just came out recently too, they did a horrible campaign for releasing that set. When it came out, it was more pushed towards playability. And same with Magic. Magic came out, it was all based on playing it. It wasn't based on the fact that it's an investable set, and it wasn't marketed towards the high-end people that were going to spend money on paying for this thing. It was actually put out, and I even remember when I was first starting in Magic, because I've been 8 years old when Magic came out, because I actually started playing Magic first before I actually started playing Pokemon. And I remember Magic, a lot of times they would even do 2-for-1 packs, and they would do, things like that to get people to get the cards to play the game. And they focused on playing the game. Flesh and Blood focused on playing the game. The gameplay was the thing they built on, and then they started working on better arts or better sets to try and improve on that gameplay and build the dynamics for the gameplay that drew people into it. Same with My Heroes Academia. It's got a anime, and now it has a TCG, and that TCG builds off of the fact that they are successful at gameplay. MetaZoo went a completely different idea, where they went for investors first and then decided that we need to try and get gameplay later, which means it's very top heavy right now. And like I said, we got to get a foundation. If it's going to survive as an overall game or as a TCG and not just an NFT trading cardboard, we need to actually see this actually get legs under it. Otherwise, it's just going to get, every set's going to get less expensive, less. And it's just going to continually eventually just fall out of favor. People won't be buying it for, playability. They're just going to be playing it because they want to have an investment.
Yeah. I mean, the perfect example is Dragon Ball Z. I mean, Dragon Ball Z, if anyone wasn't around back when Dragon Ball Z was huge, I mean, it was just as big, if not bigger than Pokemon, and it's in its own time. Right. I mean, everyone was into Dragon Ball Z. I felt like even girls, guys, it didn't matter. I mean, I still walk by. I still have girls that, still have pictures all up in their, rooms or houses of Dragon Ball Z characters, so it was huge. And it was kind of the same problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. Someone out there might know a little more about it, but Dragon Ball Z didn't have the gameplay. Like the gameplay never exploded. Right. And so all it had is the collectability. They were trying to kind of make it off the IP, and it's never materialized into anything. And so now they're coming back out with Dragon Ball Super. They're trying to kind of recreate the card game with Super, and it looks like they put a little more, emphasis on the gameplay this time to try to recreate it. But I mean, my point is look at an IP as big as Dragon Ball Z couldn't make it work because the gameplay wasn't there. And so why would MetaZoo, this brand new thing, come along and them be able to make it just because they had some hype and things like that? Those are the things I look for. I look at across other things that didn't make it and compare to MetaZoo, and I think it resembles those a lot more than like a Magic, Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm seeing Steve's Collectibles just put some information. Uh-oh.
$250K prize this month. What?
That's what I was just reading here. That's what I was going to say. He's got that up here. He's talking about a tournament very soon with a $250K prize. Wow.
Is that for MetaZoo?
That's what that's what I was going to say. I think he's talking about MetaZoo, because I was looking at the one message above it. He was talking about how it's not even a year old yet, or it's only a year old.
It makes sense though, right? I mean, they have the money behind them. I mean,
yeah.
The big money's in MetaZoo, so that doesn't surprise me. I mean, you could go have a tournament that pays more than Pokemon. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. And again, like if anyone out there MetaZoo fan, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk it down. I mean, I literally don't care. I don't have a dog in this fight. I hope it does well for you if you are involved. I would just give my opinion, literally. So don't take this as I'm trying to dog MetaZoo. I hope it does well. I'm indifferent. I don't care either way. But yeah, I mean, don't let like seeing big prize pools think that means it's coming. It's not like they have that much interest that it raised that much money. It's just they're putting that much money in as an investment to try to bring people to these tournaments. It's just because there's that much money involved in MetaZoo and kind of the push behind it. That's all that is.
And Marty the Martian just said it perfectly. That's what I was going to put in here too. If they are doing this and putting that kind of cash prize on it, they are trying to blow up the TCG. I think MetaZoo's realized their fault here, and they are trying to use that cash prize to balloon that base. They're trying to get that base built in order to really get that growing. And that's exactly what I said. They have to get that base. If they can't get that base, this is an NFT. And if it's an NFT, it's going to fail as a TCG and eventually fall out of favor of players. And then you're just trading artwork. There's going to be no value for it as a playable set. So, like I said, if that's what they're doing, it's a great idea. I will say that if you want to build a base quickly, put big cash prizes on it, because that's going to get people to open their products up to try and build decks to go play the game. And if that's the case, then that's exactly what they need to do. At this point, to be successful, this is what they need to do, is get these big cash prize tournaments out there to get them in.
Well, hey, Northwoods, I will have your YouTube and your Instagram link in the description.
Sounds good.
Everyone, make sure you check out his channel. Is there anything else you want me to put in the description for you?
Nope. If you can just put that on there, that's just fine for me. Otherwise, just had a nice talk, good discussion.
Yeah. Any closing words you want to say before we end it?
No, just thanks everybody for joining us. Like I said, I had a lot of fun. Great chat, good information. Nice having a talk about all these different things. Always nice to talk about something outside of Pokemon every once in a while. So I get asked MetaZoo every time, and I wish it'd be a different TCG sometimes, but it's a good conversation to have outside of things. But otherwise, thanks guys.
You want me to link your Patreon down there?
Yeah, as soon as I get one, right?
All right, guys. Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll be back here again tomorrow with Eva's Binder, so make sure you check that out at 3 p.m. Central Time. Other than that, Northwoods, thanks for joining me, and everyone, thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you guys later.
See ya. Now I don't know how to end this thing.
I think you hit the leave button at the bottom.
Right.